ॐ वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। ॐ श्री महागणपतये नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। अस्मद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ श्री मेधा दक्षिणामूर्ति स्वामिने नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसां पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। So namaste once again everyone.
Namaste, Guruji.
Namaste. So we are on mantra 34. We will chant with whatever little attendance is there. Dronam cha bhishmam cha
Dronam cha bhishmam cha
jayadratam cha
jayadratam cha
karnam tatanyanapi yodha viran
karnam tatanyanapi yodha veeran
maya hatastvam
maya hatasvam
jahi ma vyatishta
jahi ma vyatishta
युध्यस्व जेतासि
yudyasya jetasi
रणे सपत्नान्।
rane sapatnan.
Okay. So we completed an in-depth discussion on the topics of fatalism, fate, and free will in the last class. I hope these aspects of law of karma are clear now. Still, if anyone has got any doubts or questions, please raise in the satsang today and we will try to find an answer. So, after urging Arjuna to be an instrument and assist in re-establishing dharma in the 33rd sloka, in this 34th sloka, Krishna reiterates the message that for all these people, that is Bhishma, Drona, Karna, etc., the time has come for them to depart from the world, which has already been decided by the application of law of karma, or you can call it law of dharma also. So all that Arjuna has to do is to align his actions with dharma and fight. So Krishna, we can say more or less directs Arjuna to kill Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, as well as other great warriors. And he says, from the point of view of Kala Tattvam, they are already dead. They are already been killed by me. And therefore, he says that Arjuna should not have any fear or anxiety, and that he should fight, and that he will certainly conquer the enemies, because Dharma is on his Arjuna's side. Not because Arjuna is a great warrior, and that is true, he is a great warrior. But because Dharma is on his side, Krishna says, you will certainly win. Satyameva jayate, dharmameva jayate. That is what the Krishna's message is. Eventual analysis, it is the dharma which will win. That is why, all these controversies about Sanatana Dharma, which is going on. Some people are saying we will eradicate Sanatana Dharma. For more than 1,000 years, foreign invaders try to do that, and they have not succeeded. And these people, what you call, who do not even have a decade of political experience or being in the government, and they are now saying we will eradicate dharma. So all those are all political statements. We should not take them very seriously. That shows their ignorance about history. Anyway, so Krishna says, Tvam Jahi, you go ahead and kill them. And now Arjuna is on emotional crossroads. One part of his mind, the emotional part, says, don't kill your near and dear ones. But the intellect part says, as a Kshatriya, you have no choice but to kill all those who are fighting this battle on the side of adharma, because you are fighting a dharma yuddham. And Krishna wants Arjuna to transcend his emotions and do what is dictated by his Swadharma. These are all huge messages for all of us. Whenever we have such conflicts, we face such conflicts in life, which path we should choose, Krishna is very clearly laying down for Arjuna and through Arjuna to all of us. And if you actually look at our folk stories and all, there are many stories, many folklores are there in our literature which support such a course of action. To just give you one example from Tamil classics, that is what I know most. The Tamil epic, there is a Tamil epic called Periya Purana. It records a story of a king who was called Manu Nidhi Cholan, a legendary Chola king who ruled from a place called Tiruvarur in Tamil Nadu. This king crushed his own son under the wheels of a royal chariot as a punishment for accidentally running over a cow's calf. It's a very interesting story in the Periya Purana. The son, riding a chariot, prince rather, he runs over a calf. And the mother cow is bereaved. She goes to the palace. And this king, those days, of course, dharma was all very highly revered. The king has actually installed a bell, a huge bell with a rope hanging outside the palace. So if anybody wants to invoke the king's attention for, judging a adharmic activity or making a complaint. All that person has to do is go to the palace and pull the rope and ring the bell. Then immediately he will be produced before the king, and the king will hear the case and then decide. So in this case, what happens once the calf is run over by the chariot? Because it's always a driver's mistake if you go and hit somebody, isn't it? Even today, that is the rule, traffic rule. That's why you got brakes in the car. So this cow goes to the palace, catches hold of that rope with its mouth, and it rings the bell. So the dharma flowed down even to animal level those days. So then the king summons the cow, and then since the cow cannot say what was the problem, the other people, they say that this is the problem, that is why the cow has come. So the king says, the punishment for this is similar death for my son. So he overcomes his emotions and did what the king's swadharma dictated. If you actually go through these classics and all, there are so many such stories. And that is exactly what Krishna is urging Arjuna to do when he is instructing Arjuna to kill Bhishma, Drona and Jayadratha. In Mahabharata itself, you will find so many stories. Swadharma is most important. One's own dharma. What are one's duties? One has to place them in front before all kind of emotional entanglements. And we should note here, Krishna mentions Karna and says that killing Karna should be very easy for Arjuna because there is no emotional entanglement. On the contrary, Arjuna has been waiting for an opportunity to slay Karna, whom Arjuna always looked down upon as Sutaputra, the son of a charioteer, and not as a warrior. And this also here, it shows the cultural, or I would probably put it, the difference in the approach of Arjuna and Krishna in terms of caste discrimination. If you remember earlier in one of the slokas, Arjuna refers to Karna as Sutaputra, son of a charioteer. That means a low caste fellow. Whereas here Krishna does not refer to Karna as Sutaputra, but he refers to Karna as Karna only by his name. Very subtle difference we have to observe. That shows Krishna's, his own thinking. He treats everybody as equal. For him, there are no castes. Nobody is above, nobody is below. So he says, Karnam Tata Anyan Api Yoda Viran Tvam Jahi. You kill Karna and all other, and in the process, you will have to kill many other valiant soldiers, and you have to lose many on your side also. And therefore, Jahi, because the time has come for all of them to die. Their prarabdha is over. Maya Hatan, for your kind information, I have already closed their life chapter in my records, in my books. Their files are already closed. Their next Janma is ready. So all you have to do is to bring this process to its logical end. And since in these verses, Krishna presents himself as Kala Tattvam, he is using the first person expression Maya Hatan. They have already been killed by me. Means what? Their death has been determined by the time principle, the Kala Tattvam. And then he gives some consolation. He says, Ma Vyatishta hai. Do not be upset over this, Arjuna. Do not be depressed over this. These are all facts of life. Many things you have to do in life, even though you do not like them. And Krishna is indirectly reminding Arjuna of his teaching in the second chapter. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmad apariharyerthe natvam shochitum arhasi. And therefore, yudhyasva, may you take to this battle because you are a born Kshatriya. If you were a Brahmana, you can get away from all this. Sit somewhere and do japa and meditation, etc. You can do. Because Brahmana Swadharma is not fighting. It is Adhyayanam and Adhyapanam. But fighting for Dharma is a Kshatriya's duty. Kshatat trayate iti Kshatriya, it says. Saving the society from adharma is the duty of a Kshatriya. Kshatam means adharma. And therefore, yudhyasva, jetasi sapatnan, you will certainly defeat your enemies. Sapatnan means enemies. Certainly, you will defeat your enemies in the war because you will be fighting for dharma. And we should remember that in the very second chapter, Arjuna had expressed a doubt whether he will defeat them or whether he will get defeated. Yadva jayema yadiva no jayeyuhu yaneva hatva na jijivishamaha te vastitah pramuke dhartrashtraha, he said. He said, I don't even know whether we will defeat them or they will defeat us. So that doubt of Krishna, that doubt of Arjuna, Krishna is setting at rest here. He says, you said that you had a doubt whether you will win or the other side will win. Let me assure you, you are going to win the war. Not because you are powerful, but dharma is on your side. So the Lord tells what is going to happen according to the law of karma. When we listen to all this, we wish Krishna also comes and tells us what is there in our prarabdha, isn't it? What is going to be our future, etc. Unfortunately, that is not possible. We are not Arjunas. Just imagine, somebody is seriously sick in the family and hospitalized. But we do not know whether the end of their prarabdha has come or not. Suppose Bhagavan comes and tells beforehand what is the prarabdha. Would it not be convenient? If Bhagavan says, don't worry, according to that sick person's prarabdha, he or she will survive. Then we need not unnecessarily spend on huge hospital bills, time and effort on insurance claims, etc. Isn't it? Because that person will somehow survive even if not treated. On the contrary, suppose Bhagavan comes and says that person's prarabdha is over, and whether you give treatment or not, that person is going to die, then also it will be convenient. We need not waste money on hospital. In fact, we can actually tell the priests and all and start the funeral preparations. And in fact, if you look at it practically, on many occasions, Bhagavan comes in the form of doctors who become the nimittams for the Lord and tell us there is no hope and that we can inform all our relatives to come and have a last darshan. So sometimes, this happens rather. Bhagavan comes in the form of doctors. Anyhow, that's all aside. Therefore, except for such cases, unfortunately, we do not know what is in store for the sick person. So in such cases, what is our swadharma? We can only go by what is appropriate. We can give the necessary treatment, which is the dharmic course of action, which is the exercise of our free will, and then leave the free will and the fate prarabdha to interact, and the result may be operation success, but patient collapses, or that person may survive also. Here, free will is under control, but fate we do not know. We have no control over fate. So, under the circumstances, we have to choose the best course of action and then surrender to the teaching karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Therefore, do your action as though everything is in your hands and receive the result as though everything is in God's hands. This is the practical and rational approach, which I'm sure most of us do follow. But if we are following out of emotion, then that is not what Krishna is advising. He says, follow this approach as an intellectual decision. Make up your mind. Use your free will and take this course of action. And in many cases, I have seen the euthanasia cases and all that. When the doctor has given up all hopes, some people have got that intellectual capability, the intellectual strength, or you can even call it emotional strength. They will say, fine doctor, we don't want this person to suffer further. So you can remove all the, life sustaining, whatever you are doing, and let the person go away peacefully. Of course, there are very rare cases this happens. And normally everybody is driven by emotions only. But that is the practical and rational approach. And because we do not know the power of the fate, whether free will is strong or fate is strong. And that is why many people, they try to read the fate through astrology. Astrology is supposed to indicate the direction of the fate. And there are recommendations given for prayaschitta also. A good astrologer who carries the blessings of the Lord. Yeah, astrology, again, practicing astrology is not a very easy thing. Like Vedanta, they also have a lot of sadhanas they have to do. So many disciplines that they have to adhere to. Then only when they start looking at the horoscope or anything and they start predicting, they will be speaking on behalf of the Lord, the karma phala data. So, such a good astrologer who carries the blessings of the Lord can read the placement of the planets in the horoscope and predict the future fairly accurately by employing the Jyotisha Shastra. In fact, I have got my personal experiences where this has been actually established. But then these days, you should be very careful because it is difficult to tell who is a qualified astrologer is. Another problem is if you go to two astrologers, you had it. And it normally happens in the case of horoscope matching for marriage. The girl's side astrologer will say the horoscopes are matching, but the boy's side astrologer will say they don't match, or vice versa. You can keep it. Now, which view or whose view we should take, we don't know. And the result is, you know what? Many people, especially youngsters today, they have lost faith in astrology itself because of this. Astrology itself is a very scientific Vedic Shastra, but the practitioners, they have actually, killed the reputation of astrology itself. And there is another practice. Some people tend to go to the astrologers even for small things. And when you go on pestering an astrologer, he has no option but to tell you something to satisfy you, tell you something what you want to hear, so that you will go away. And therefore, because of all these things, in today's times, astrology is a controversial topic, and the less we say about it, the better. But we must always remember, as students of scriptures, Veda students, Jyotisha Shastra is an angam of Vedas, and it has therefore been given by Bhagavan himself along with the Vedas. And therefore, the validity of astrology cannot be questioned just because predictions of the so-called practitioners are questionable. Okay. Now coming back to the teaching, which Krishna concludes in this sloka. Krishna points out to Arjuna that if you do have a will, free will, and using your free will, you can choose a course of action based on raga dvesha or based on dharma adharma. So free will can be used, as a choice. There are two choices. And the Arjuna's conflict was always that only, whether to go by raga dvesha or go by dharma adharma. And Arjuna's raga dvesha tells him to run away from the battle because he is attached to Bhishma, Drona, etc. So, the two aspects of the free will, of which he has to choose one. He can choose the course dictated by raga dvesha, which is not to fight the battle. It is better to go to the forest and live on bhiksha. That he himself said in the second chapter. At the same time, his dharma jnanam tells that the dharmic course of action is fighting for dharma yuddham. So raga dvesha based renunciation of the war or dharma based fighting of the war. These are the two options before Arjuna. He is in a conflict situation. And what Krishna advises is that if you are going by your raga dvesha, you are not using your free will properly. If you choose wrongly, if you are abusing your free will, it will lead to your downfall. And in that case, even Bhagavan cannot help. Ravana chose downfall, Kamsa chose downfall. The challenges before Ravana was not very big. Okay, he has done a mistake, he has kidnapped Sita. But he had actually kept Sita so secure that he never had made any, wrong advances towards her. He did not misuse the opportunity which was there by capturing Sita. He was always waiting for Sita's consent to marry her. Still, when Rama came and said that you return Sita, he chose the what? This Raga Dvesha. And that was his downfall. Similarly, Kamsa also chose downfall. So now the choice is with Arjuna. And therefore, Krishna is posing a question to Arjuna. Arjuna, do you want to abuse your free will and choose a spiritual downfall? Or are you going to use your free will properly? Which means even though this war is a bitter war, even though the duty is an unpleasant duty, even though the duty involves destruction of your own kith and kin, still you should not go by your attachment, your raga dvesha. You should go by dharma. So Krishna is again reminding Arjuna of the second chapter sloka. Dharmyadi yadat shreyo nyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. If because of your intellectual conviction, you suppress your emotions, you go by your intellectual convictions and choose the painful duty, even though the duty is painful, then your dharmic course of action will be equal to surrendering your free will to the will of the Lord. And if you surrender your free will to the will of the Lord, if you choose to become a nimittam, an instrument of God, which means choosing a dharmic course of action, even though it is painful, then it will lead you to spiritual growth. So, dharmic course of action is using the free will, and adharmic course of action is abusing your free will. Ragadvesha based action is abuse of free will. Dharma, adharma based action is use of free will, which is in another language called surrendering to the will of the Lord. And this is what is meant by Sharanagati. Sharanagati is not going and falling at the feet of the Lord and holding his legs and all. Oh Lord, please save me, please give me moksha. That is not Sharanagati. Sharanagati is surrendering your free will to the cosmic power, the cosmic order, which is the upholder of dharma. And that is real devotion. So here, it's a beautiful shloka, or rather the whole portion is so beautiful. You will find karma yoga and bhakti yoga merging. Because a true karma yogi has to act according to dharma, which means what? A karma yogi has surrendered his free will to the will of the Lord. When it is forced surrender, it is suppression. But when it is voluntary surrender with maturity, it is Sharanagati. The 18th chapter again, Krishna will revert to this topic. He will say, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. He will say, surrender your free will, Arjuna. I am telling you what is dharma, because even after doing all these things, giving all these teachings in the 11th chapter, Arjuna is still confused, because this ragadvesha based actions, emotions are very strong. It is not very easy to overcome the emotions. Not at all easy. In fact, recently just give you an example. There is a old couple, they've got a son. The son is about 35, 36 years old and not yet married. And the what is happening, the son has to go to office, he works far away, some 40, 50 kilometers away. So he has to leave home at 7 o'clock in the morning and he'll come back at 9 o'clock or something at night. So what they do, the parents, they get up early in the morning at 5, 5:30 and cook his breakfast, cook his lunch and all, and then give him all the lunch, etc. He takes it to the office and then comes back at 9 o'clock. By the time he comes back, dinner is ready. He eats and then they sleep. Now, those people are so much attached to the son that they are not able to move out of their house even for a couple of days, a few days. Suppose they have to attend some marriage or something. They say, oh, 3, 4 days, what will my son do? He won't get food. As if, they are living in a big metro. As if there are no restaurant, no hotels, nothing else is available. But this is the emotional entanglement, it's very difficult to overcome. And therefore, we have to prepare our mind for a long period of time to reach that stage. Surrender your free will to Bhagavan. Take your risk, do what is dharma, and then let it take its own course. This voluntary surrender is called real bhakti. So Krishna ends this part of teaching with this 34th sloka, and Sanjaya takes over. We must remember Sanjaya is there narrating all these things to Dhritarashtra. So Sanjaya now comes in. We will chant 35th shloka. Sanjaya uvacha
Sanjaya Uvacha
etat shrutva vachanam
Etashrutva Vacanam
keshavasya
Keshavasya
kritanjali vepamanah
Kritanjali Vepamanah
kiriti
Kiriti
namaskritva bhuya eva
Namaskritva Bhuya Eva
aha krishnam sagadgadam
Aham
Sagadgatam
bhita bhita pranamya.
Bhita
Pranamya
I am not chanting it in the tune in which it should be chanted, because I find that when I actually take a long piece of the shloka, some people find it difficult to chant. So I thought I will try to break it, as much as possible, though not making it into single words. So don't worry. When you all get more accustomed, then we will go back to the chanting with the proper tune. Okay. So Anvaya is Sanjaya Uvacha. Shrutva etat vachanam keshavasya vepamana kiriti namaskritva pranamya bhita bhitah sagadgatam ah krishnam bhuyah eva krita anjalihi. Sanjaya Uvacha. Sanjaya said, Shrutva, having heard, etat vachanam, these words, Keshavasya, of Keshava, that is Krishna, Vepamana Kiriti, the trembling Arjuna, Namaskritva, saluted, Pranamya, bowing down, Bhita Bhita, with great fear, Sagadgatam, falteringly, Aha Krishnam, spoke to Krishna, Bhuyaha Eva, once again, Kritanjalihi, with folded palms. So Sanjaya said, Having heard these words of Krishna, the trembling Arjuna saluted and bowing down with great fear, falteringly spoke to Krishna once again with joined palms. You can visualize the scene, right? So, when Krishna answered Arjuna's question, how did Arjuna respond? Because Arjuna has now understood that Krishna is not responsible for the sufferings or enjoyments of people. Krishna is only a karma phala data, exactly like a judge in a court. A judge is not responsible for the enjoyment or suffering of the people, which is an outcome of the judgment. If a person suffers punishment in the jail, that suffering is not caused by the judge, but the suffering is the result of his own action, judged against the laws of the land. In the case of our own actions, Bhagavan only ensures that the law of karma works smoothly and everyone gets the results of his or her own action. Just as the judge's role is to make the law of country work properly. And therefore, Lord's compassion does not mean he will alter the karma phala. Lord's compassion is in the form of the maintenance of the law of karma, which is equally applicable to all jivas. It is not like our constitution, some people are exempt. Law of karma is not like that. And therefore, if a person has to receive papa phala of his or her own adharmic actions, person will certainly receive it. Bhagavan is compassionate, all right. But that does not mean that he will dilute the papa phalam as a favor. Because if out of compassion, Bhagavan is not going to give karma phalam, then the moral order of creation will be disturbed. Imagine Bhagavan changes the law of karma because a person has to suffer, then what will be the problem? Then he will have to change the laws which maintains the orderliness of the creation. Then what will happen? A single individual may benefit, all right, but the world at large will have to suffer. And therefore, when we look from a short-sighted angle, we may feel that Bhagavan should interfere and stop all the sufferings. For example, suppose a person is falling from the top floor of a multi-story building. If he hits the ground, he is certain to die or at least get seriously injured. So he prays. And Bhagavan, out of compassion, says, okay, I will prevent your fall by suspending the law of gravitation for 10 minutes. Okay? So the law of gravitation, which is what? A cosmic order, a law within the cosmic order, is suspended by Bhagavan for 10 minutes. What will happen? The fall of that person may be stopped. But all of us will start flying. Isn't it? Remember, if the law of gravitation stops, we will not be able to stand on the earth. We will be suddenly floating like the cosmonauts and astronauts, in the space. And after 10 minutes, what will happen? When the law of gravitation again comes back, we will all have a solid fall, and we may even get injured. That one person, he will land very safely, because when during his fall, law of gravitation was suspended. But then we will all have been injured in the process. And therefore, remember that it is short-sightedness to complain to the Lord and ask him to change the course of law for the sake of one's own personal benefit. The law of karma should not be disturbed for the survival of the world. If the world is going to perish, so be it. It is the samashti prarabdha. If it is there, let the world perish. Just as the traffic signals, should be functioning. Even though one person may miss the train because of the traffic signal. Just because a person is going to miss the train, the traffic signal cannot be switched off for his sake. It will not work. There will be chaos all around. And therefore, Arjuna has understood that the Lord is not partial or cruel. The job of the Lord is the maintenance of the law of karma. And therefore, if my papa karma brings suffering to me, I should change my attitude to accept the suffering without getting frustrated, without complaining against the Lord, without cursing the Lord as unjust or cruel. I should change my attitude and accept the suffering. And what is the best method of accepting? There is a method to accept the suffering, which I personally have been employing the last about close to a year now. When I had a fall, or when I was sick, when I had some serious infection in my leg, etc., whenever pain was there because of which I was suffering, I told myself that this suffering I am undergoing because of some papa karma I have done in the past. And because now that papa karma has started giving its result, to that extent, the component of papa karma in my karma balance is reduced. And I thank God that if by using whatever compassion that he has used, because all the prayers that I have offered, Bhagavan has actually made all these pain bearable. So there is discomfort, there is pain, all that is there. There is a prolonged treatment process. Still, I take consolation in the fact that these set of papa karmas are gone. They are exhausted. They will never come back and trouble me in future. So the weight of papa karma bundle is reduced. And therefore, instead of saying I am suffering, learn to say I am becoming purer and purer. Because papa balance in my karma account is becoming lesser and lesser. When papa karma becomes less, what it means? I am becoming purer. And similarly, when you are enjoying having a good time, you must understand that your punyam balance is also getting reduced. For a mumukshu, that also should be welcome. Because what should be our goal, or what is our goal? While pursuing Atma Jnanam, we keep reducing the Punya Papa balances in our account. And also, we do not add to our Punya Papa balance by directing all our good deeds, all our prayers for Chitta Shuddhi. With the Karma Yoga attitude, we do all prayers. And thus we keep reducing the papa balance by first not indulging in adharmic karmas, and secondly by accepting all sufferings, though not with a smile, but not with a frown also. Okay. Equanimity. Recall the good times that you have had. Thank God. Oh God, those good times I have had, you are very compassionate. Now you are giving me suffering, which is my own karma phalam. I'm not going to complain. I'll accept it gracefully. If we have that attitude, then progressively both our punya and papa balance will reduce. And we will be increasing our chitta shuddhi progressively. So this change in attitude for both happiness and sufferings will help us in getting more and more purity of the mind. In fact, I remember when we were actually talking about, I was taking Tattva Bodha classes long ago, 7 years ago, I think, when we were talking about sadhana chatushtaya sampatti and also, increasing chitta shuddhi. One student asked me, what is it that we should do to improve our chitta shuddhi? The answer I think I gave him was, continue with all your dharmic activities, take to karma yoga, it will automatically happen. And I said, don't stop your learning with Tattva Bodha alone. Tattva Bodha is only introduction. Continue your learning. And you will find the formula for Chitta Shuddhi at so many places. So here Arjuna seems to understand that the Lord cannot be labeled as cruel. And therefore he says, O Lord, your ways are inscrutable. You love everyone, all right. You are embodiment of compassion, all right. But your compassion expresses in the form of maintaining the law of karma. Now, this will lead to an aside question. Even though it is not the topic of Gita, I will raise that question and answer that also, because you have been listening carefully, this question could come in your mind. What is the question? The question is, if Bhagavan is going to make the law of karma function without exception, then does it mean that prayaschitta karmas are waste or useless? Because I said that prayaschitta karmas have also been given by the Vedas only. By the law of karma, they are very much part of the law of karma. So, because law of karma has to take its own course of action, if karma phalam has to necessarily fructify, why should we pray? Why should we do prayaschitta karma? Will it not be a waste of time, money and energy? Actually, I have briefly touched upon the answer in one of the earlier classes, but at the cost of repetition, I will give you a formal answer. The formal answer is no. Prayaschitta karmas will never be a waste, because prayaschitta karmas also function according to the law of karma only. Okay. Now, how does this prayaschitta karmas work? By prayaschitta karma, what I am doing is I am producing another punya, which is exactly opposite to the papam, because of which I have got problem. Swami Paramathananda ji gives a nice example. He says, it is like I have thrown a stone upwards And by law of gravitation, the stone is coming down straight towards my head. And therefore, does it mean that because the stone is going to hit my head, because of my own action, I am the one who threw the stone, I should accept it and do nothing? Does it mean that I should allow the stone to hit my head and then I should suffer? Answer is no. I can use my free will, throw another stone, which is again within the law of forces. One force coming down, I produce another force which will go up, and that force will hit the force of the stone coming down and neutralize the fall. Another example is I have taken some food which is not suitable to my system, and therefore it has produced some allergic reaction. That is according to the law of my system, law of my constitution. Some allergic reaction has been produced. But does that mean that I have to suffer? No. I can take another medicine or some medicine which will act exactly counter to that. And therefore, what we have to understand is Prayaschitta karmas are based on the law of resultant forces, which I mentioned in the earlier class also. So Prayaschitta will produce an Agami, and that Agami can neutralize Prarabdham. Now another question, supplementary question. What if after doing Prayaschitta, the result of Papa is not neutralized? What is the reason? The only reason is that the force of Agami of the Prayaschitta karma is lesser compared to the force of Prarabdha. Going back to the stone throwing example, suppose instead of throwing a stone, actually a huge meteorite is coming down and is going to fall on your head. And you take a stone and throw it up to neutralize the power of fall of the meteorite. That small stone cannot stop the fall, isn't it? Therefore, whether Prayaschitta will neutralize the Prarabdha or not will depend upon the relative strengths of Prayaschitta and Prarabdha. If Prarabdham is powerful, very powerful, then Prayaschitta cannot do much. There is another example which I think, quoted in Tattvabodha classes. Suppose you go to a doctor. Ask the doctor, doctor, can you cure my disease? What will the doctor say? If he is an intelligent doctor, he will say, my reply will depend upon the type of disease. Certain diseases I can outright cure. If it is an allergic reaction to something you have eaten or something like that, I may give you some medicine or an injection to cure it. And if it is some bacterial infection, I can prescribe a course of antibiotics and you will be cured. If it is an appendicitis or tonsillitis problem, I may do a minor surgery and remove it. So certain types of diseases can be totally cured. Then there are certain types of diseases like diabetes, hypertension, etc. They cannot be totally cured, but I can prescribe some tablet, some medicine, which you will have to continue lifelong, and then the disease can be kept under control. So even though not totally cured, you will be able to manage fairly well if you pay attention to your diet, physical activities, also along with medication. So this is the medium type. So total cure is one type. Second type is managing or containing the effect of the diseases. Then there is the third category, certain types of cancer, AIDS, etc., which we call terminal illnesses, which have no remedy, and the doctor may also indicate that the time left is only 3 months, 6 months, or if one is lucky, a few years. The doctor says there is no remedy. So if you ask the doctor, can you cure my disease? He will say, I cannot say a disease cannot be cured. I can never say the disease can be cured. It will all depend upon the individual cases. And there are three possibilities: total cure, management, or helplessness. So, Prarabdha also comes to us as three types. Okay. More we will see the next class. Is already time is over. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Dhanyavadaha everyone. Thank you very much.
Hari Om, Namaskaram.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ
Hari Om
ಗುರುಜಿ.
Namaskaram.
Guruji.
Hari Om Namaskaram. Hari Om.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Guruji. Namaste. Pranam.
Namaste. Namaste. Seems to be no questions. No question day. Okay, good. Yeah.
But very good explanation, Guruji. This is very important, valuable thought you have given today. That free will is to be surrendered, then it's a complete surrender. That is a very good definition of the
Sharanagati.
surrender. Yeah, yeah. Very, very nice. That is very impressive. Thank
Vedantic
you.
definition is that.
Acha, acha. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Good. Okay, then we will close the session and continue next week. Okay. Hari Om, everybody. Thank you.
Hari
Thank
Om.
you.
Thank you, Guruji.